Hi everyone, welcome to my YouTube channel. On today's episode, I'm going to be making a bodysuit from an upcycled shirt. Yes, so this is my mom's top. It's a very nice fabric. She's not wearing it anymore, so I figured, why don't I just make a bodysuit? And that's what I'm going to do. So I have pulled apart the shirt. I've cut out the side seams. I've taken out the sleeves, and I'm going to be using this. But first, pattern. So starting from my shoulder line, which I've already drawn, I'm going to be marking down my back length, and I will also be marking down from my back length. I'm marking down 9 inches for my hip line, and then square out both points. Now to figure out exactly where your back length is, so your back length is basically the measurement from the nape of your neck to your waistline, like this. So that's exactly where you measure, or have someone help you measure, so you can figure out exactly where your back length is. From my back length line, which is also my waistline, I'm going to be marking down 12 inches for my crotch depth. You can check out my previous video on how to make a jumpsuit to figure out exactly how to get your crotch depth. Now back to my shoulder line, I'm going to be marking 3 inches from my neck point and 6.5 inches from my shoulder width. And from that point, I'm going to be marking down 1 inch, which I'll be connecting to my neck point. Now from this point, I'm going to be marking down my armhole measurement, which is going to be my bust line. I'll then square it out also. I'm just going to go ahead and label my lines: BL for bust line, WL for waistline, and HL for hip line. And of course my CF to serve as my center front, even though I'm going to end up cutting that out at the end of the day. So I'm making a V neckline, so I'm going to be marking 8 inches downwards because I just want to have a really nice, lovely V shape. But you can choose to make your neckline however you want. Next, I'm going to be marking the 6.5 inches, same measurement as my shoulder measurement, and I'm going to be using that so I can draw a straight line to my shoulder. Now I'm going to be dividing my armhole depth by 2, and on that point I'm going to be marking in by 0.5 inches, which is going to aid in my armhole curve. But before I do that, I'm going to be marking a quarter of my bust measurement minus 1 inch. And when I mark that, I'm going to mark 1 inch for my sewing allowance and then create my armhole curve. Now my waistline, I'm also going to be marking a quarter of my waist measurement minus 1 inch, and then I'll be adding 1 inch for my sewing allowance. Same on my hip line, a quarter of my hip measurement minus 1 inch, and then I'll end up returning 1 inch for my sewing allowance. And using a curve, I'm going to be connecting my waist point to my hip point, and then I'll be connecting from the waist to the bust point. And to complete my bodysuit, I'm going to be marking down 3 inches from my crotch depth, and then I'll square it out. And on that point, I'm going to be marking 1 inch and a 0.5 inch for allowance, for sewing allowance. Now to get that pants-like look on my bodysuit, I'm going to be marking from my waistline down 5 inches, and then I'm going to be connecting that point to my crotch line down to the extra measurement for the flap. I'm also going to be marking 1 inch plus a 0.5 inch sewing allowance on the crotch line before I connect to the 5 inch drop on my side seam. So there you have it, the front of my bodysuit is done. I'm going to be using this same block to trace out for my back, well, most of the back of my bodysuit, but first I have to cut it out before I can do that. For places that I haven't added my sewing allowance, that's exactly what I'm doing, and then I'll just cut everything out. Now for my back, my side seams are the same, but for the armhole, I'm just going to replace back that 0.5 inch that I took out for the front. And for the neckline, I'm going to just put a high neckline for my bodysuit, even though at the end of the day I ended up with a low back. Another difference for the back is the fact that I'm going to be dropping down by 3.5 inches from the crotch depth. Instead of 3 inches, I'm going to be dropping down by 3.5 inches, and also the curve from that 5-inch mark is going to curve outward instead of inward, so that it can just cover your bum a bit. So as you can see, the back of my pattern has a more rounded curve to the pants part than the front does. This is so that you can just at least cover your bum a bit, even though yes, it's going to be inside your skirt or your trouser, but just for comfort sake, you can just have it cover up a bit more than the front. So I have my blocks ready, my front and my back ready, and the next thing I'm going to do is to just cut out my fabric so that I can get my bodysuit sewing. So because it's an upcycle project, my pattern is basically at the mercy of whatever dress or whatever shirt I'm using. So as you can see, I have a shortage, but what I'm going to do is I'm just going to cut the pattern from the hip line. I'll just cut that part out, and then I'll get another fabric, cut the little part that I have left, and then join it to the rest of the pattern later. So before I cut out my back, I'm going to be making a few more adjustments on the pattern. So I'm going to be marking from my waistline 0.5 inches inwards, and on my neckline I'm also going to be marking 0.5 inches inwards, which I'm going to be creating curves so that it can have a better fit on my back, as my back is not flat. Yeah. And voila, my back is cut. So yes, this is an upcycle project, I have to say again. So what I had to work with basically determined how my bodysuit is going to turn out. So I already had a V, so I'm going to work with that, and I have cut out my pattern with a 0.5 inch allowance on the center back so that I can sew the back together. This is the piece for the bottom part of my bodysuit, and I'm going to be doing, I have already cut out the front also, so I cut out the front, and this is also the piece for the bodysuit part of my front. I'm going to join this at the sewing machine, but not forgetting the sleeves. So the top already came with sleeves, so all I needed to do was just take out about an inch from the original sleeves so that it can be my size. So here's my bodysuit joined at the shoulders. My sleeves have been inserted, and I have joined the center back, and I've added my pieces that have been separated from the original pattern. So here's my jumpsuit completed, well, almost completed. I mean, I've joined my side seams, I have hemmed the bottom part of the bodysuit, and for the under part, I think I folded about 1 inch in total on both sides, so that it can just have a nice, it can just overlap nicely. And to finish up my bodysuit, I'm going to be using press buttons at this place here at the bottom part. So I'm going to be using these. You can get, I think you can get silvers, you can get plastic, you can get the metal one. I'm using the metal one. Yes, I'm using the metal one. So you can just get these and then just hand sew them to the bottom of your bodysuit so that they can just open and close easily without much stress. So I've sewn the press button to the bodysuit and to the bottom part of my bodysuit. The pointy part I sewed to the back part of the bodysuit. So yeah, pointy part. When you take out the press buttons, you realize there's one part that is a bit pointy. So that's what I sew to the back of my bodysuit. And this is what my finished product looks like. Yes, so this is the bodysuit. This is what it looks like. It looks really nice on the mannequin. It looks nicer on me though, just that, yeah, I already gave her the bodysuit before I could take pictures of it. Yeah. Anyway, if you haven't subscribed yet to the channel, please do. You can like, share, comment, and let me know what you want me to make next. Bye. Thank you.